Fiber Effects in LightWave allows you to build geometry guides that you can take over to Layout to style your hair. So what I thought we could take a look at is quickly how we can take the guides from Modeler to Layout and apply hair to them. So we could go in and use the Fiber Effects strand modeler. But what I'm going to do is create a guide that would be difficult to create the style in Layout without modeler guides. And one thing would be like curls, like spiral curls. So to create a quick spiral, there's a lot of different ways to go about it. One of my favorite ways is to just create a flat plane, go over to Multiply, Duplicate, More, and choose Helix. And we're not actually going to use the geometry in layer 1. All I'm after is this guide. We can go in and create as many rotations as we want and change the height and radius. I'm just going to set this to, let's do back to 3. We'll use this setup here. Now by having double helix and oriented off, I'm going to click OK. In layer 1, we get the result, which I don't want. I'm just going to delete it. And in layer 2, we get that guide that I was after. Okay, so now this is just a spline, so I'm going to go over to the Setup tab and choose Strand Maker. And in layer 1, we've got the 2-point poly chain that we need to grow our hair with. Now I'm going to take in layer 2 that spline. I could save it off if I want to later go back, but it's easy to make, so I'm going to just delete it. Okay, I'm going to save the object, and let's send it over to Layout. Now by default, this is just a 2-point poly chain. If we were to render, we would just get a thin gray line that we would expect from a 2-point poly chain. But what I'm going to do is go add hair to it. So add pixel filter, fiber filter, double click, let's activate it, and let's use draw. We can see back here, actually what I'll do is switch over to perspective view so that we can really get a look at what's going on while we're deciding how we want to display this. By default, the guides that we create in Modeler will have a fiber quantity of 1, which is for every guide there's going to be 1 hair. But I can't imagine leaving it at that setup because you would need a lot of guides to get a full head of hair, or depending on whether you're using it for hair or for whatever. So I'm going to go to quantity, and let's do 40. Okay, so now I've got 40 fibers for that one guide. I can go ahead and crank this up. Let's do 200. And I see that there's some stray that I might not want, so I'm just going to hit 0. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Now, let's go ahead and do a render. We can see that we've got our 2-point poly chain and we've got our fibers. Let's do a render. Okay, so now we've got this spiral curl that again would be very difficult to style the hair in LightWave Layout without guides, and so that would be a good use for guides. What you'll notice is the 2-point poly chain isn't rendering, and let's take a look at why that is. Now that's actually a good thing, but just so you know what's going on behind the scenes, let's go to Object, Properties, and under the Render tab, you'll see that what Fiber Effects will do with the guides is automatically turn off unseen or check the unseen by camera and unseen by rays. So you don't have to worry about that 2-point poly chain showing up. So if you wanted to use guides from Modeler, whether again you could use the Fiber Effects strand modeler or the strand maker, what you can have your object, like say this was going to be on a head, you could have your head in another layer, have your guides in the next layer over, and you can then have the 2-point poly chains not render, but take advantage of the fact that you can use it for scaling. You can also apply to the head object, or to the mesh. You could apply hair and fur, and then have guides in another layer for additional hair and fur for more control. So that's just a quick look at using guides from Modeler to style hair in LightWave Layout using Fiber Effects.